group of organizations, including the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation, the organization Undoing Tax Abuse, and the Johannesburg Inner City Partnership, are now calling on President Cyril Ramaphosa to intervene in some way in the city of Joburg. They say the current governance failures of the coalition are so bad, they require urgent intervention from the top. Neeshan Balton is from the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation. He's director there. Neeshan, good afternoon to you. What are you calling for here?
We are calling, or rather we will be calling on the President to, one, acknowledge that there's a huge crisis in the city of Johannesburg that straddles across the politics, governance, administration, financial management, and service delivery, and that this is partly due to the kind of coalition and the coalition chaos in terms of governance from the kind of executive mayor, municipal manager appointments, and board appointments in the city, which has resulted in the myriad of problems which its residents and citizens have to endure on a day-to-day basis. Johannesburg is too critical to the economy of this province and the country to collapse. And with the results, there will be this appeal to the President, which many organizations are now endorsing, to intervene using all of the legislative options available to government.
If that happens, I mean, if there was an intervention, even one under the law, I mean, it would have to be one under the law, wouldn't there be huge issues? I mean, you and I may agree that Joburg, frankly, is a mess. But if someone were to try and intervene, there would almost certainly be a court case. So the current administration would oppose that, and we would be stuck in court forever.
Well, we have the option then of doing nothing, which is an option we do not think is feasible at this point in time. The deterioration in the city from the two summits that we've held and the reports that we've been receiving is just happening far too rapidly. So doing nothing is not an option. The other option is to storm the city, to do what is being done in other parts of the world, destroy whatever there is, which the burn down option is not what we would want to encourage either. Therefore, we would have to encourage those who have the authority to look at, to firstly accept that this is a problem and that they need to be addressing it. In addressing it, we would want to get engagements between government and interested and civil society and residents' organizations into what the most viable solutions would be. But the legislation currently allows for a set of interventions which we think in the first instance must be considered.
There are many other things to this. I mean, you say if there's no intervention, things are just going to get worse and worse. But wouldn't an intervention be undemocratic in some way? Isn't that a problem? I mean, people voted for the councillors, and they knew what they were voting for. Now, maybe everybody thought the party they voted for was going to win, whether they voted for the EFF, the DA, or the ANC. But, I mean, this is democracy, isn't it?
And that democracy is guided by a constitution, and that constitution allows for the interventions that I'm referring to, none of which are undemocratic. They are all allowed within the system. And ultimately, the will of the people will be reconfirmed in the 2026 elections. But we can't wait for 2026 to have a degree of stability to at least restore the city to a level of functionality, which even the provincial government, I think, has expressed concern. It currently rates the city as medium risk. That's just a level below dysfunctionality. Now, if that's being done by the provincial government, how much worse it is than what we currently know.
There are other places that have had this trouble. I mean, Nelson Mandela Bay is the perfect example, and they've had it for a long time. Do you think Joburg is worse than that? Should someone have intervened in Nelson Mandela Bay years ago?
I think there are a number of cities across the country that perhaps are worse off than Johannesburg, but this is where we are and where we are organizing and mobilizing. I am aware of similar initiatives in those parts of the world, and at some point we will link up and share experiences. But for now, we think Joburg's importance to the national economy and to that of the continent is critical such that it cannot be allowed to fail.
Do you think what we're seeing now in Joburg, and I mean there are various reasons for it, the ANC and the EFF want to work together but don't want to work together, or they want to work together but the national ANC won't let them work together, and this has created a situation where Kabelo Gwamanda from El Jamar has become the mayor. Do we need a sort of structural change to stop that from happening? I mean, the governing party itself has suggested that the mayor should always come from the majority party, from the party with the highest number of votes. I mean, would you be interested in looking at those kinds of structural changes to our law?
So, no, the law actually allows for a new determination of the mayoral committee system in the city. The establishment notice can be changed within a very short space of time to move it away from an executive mayoral committee system to a proportional system. And that is one of the options that we have raised. What that does is that it takes away the kind of overwhelming power of minority or very small parties and their almost dominance over the bigger parties, and we see the consequences of that. So that is certainly an option which is legally possible.
Neeshan Balton, thank you very much indeed. Do appreciate the time. Director at the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation. Well, an intriguing suggestion. I'm sure there'll be other places where people will be watching that very closely.